This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, times, people, places, things, experiences. But at its heart and at its core, it is all about Auburn culture, Auburn sports, and of course, Auburn family. Because it's about those family members, let's get a few of us in here. I'm your host and chair number one, Kyle Loomis, alongside me, back looking oh so tan and oh so relaxed from a vacation, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. War Eagle to you, War Eagle to our listeners. It's good to be back. Missed you guys last week. Of celebrating 6 years of wedding bliss with my wife. And then we took a little anniversary trip this week. So it's been a lot of celebrating, but glad to be back with you guys tonight.
You look a little tired, a little bit jet lagged, but hey, you're here. I love the commitment. I love the commitment, first of all, to your wife, but second of all, to the show.
Yes, we're good. We're here. There was some crazy things in the airline world this week. We didn't face too many of those effects, but it was good. It's been great. And my Auburn woman's the best. So I greatly appreciated hanging out with her this week.
I take offense to that because my Auburn lady is the best. So,
and you are right to your own opinion, sir.
We all have a right to it. It's just as equally wrong to everybody else.
Because, that's right.
Of course, we all got opinions. They all stink. Really quick, I always love, before we get into all the stuff of the show tonight, I got to ask, anytime one of us takes like a trip or something.
Yeah.
Did you have a War Eagle moment? Anything like that?
We did. Yep. We like first minute we got. So I guess for those that don't know, I went to a resort in the Dominican Republic. Emily and I got to do the all-inclusive thing and had a good time there. Well, I think we've talked about it before. My brother and I started this kind of tradition way back when, to count the teams we see and keep a note list of them. Of course, I did that again. And so, but yeah, our first day there, like we had been there, maybe couple hours, and right by the pool there's a guy in an Auburn bucket hat, and so I gave him a War Eagle. He gave a War Eagle. They were a younger couple on their honeymoon, and it was cool. I was like, I thought of you, Kyle, right away. I thought of the show. I said, I'll have to bring this up because I thought I would get one just because the chances, and
yes,
the Auburn faithful are everywhere, but to get it that early, I was like, well, I've checked something off my bucket list here. He was the only one I saw.
Listen, as long as you got one. I don't know how I feel, though, about you thinking about me on your anniversary trip, though.
It was brief. Very, very brief.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I hold that amount of reverence to you for you to think about me on your anniversary trip. But you know what? I'm glad you guys had a great time. If you want to go see an good picture of them, you can go to his Instagram account. I thought about surprising you and bringing that up on the screen.
I'm very glad you did not.
Put a little War Eagle. We won't do that to you. We won't embarrass you that bad. Let's jump into Auburn potpourri. There's probably tons of things this week that we missed that we could get into, but there were just two huge topics this week we're going to talk about in a second. So we'll do our best to give you guys some news that has happened. I want to start here really quickly from you, since you didn't get to have a moment at SEC Media Days with us. We talked about a lot of things, the general stuff, the Auburn specific things last week. Got the even segment put up for y'all if y'all just want to go watch that segment of the show on YouTube and other formats. But any quick thoughts about SEC Media Days that you'd like to share from yourself?
Yeah, I definitely recommend going and checking out that episode. I appreciate Jared's filling in last week. He did a fantastic job. I think that you heard a lot of things you want to hear. For Hugh, from Auburn side of it, from Hugh Freeze, Peyton Thorne, Keldrick Falk, and Eugene Asante. Just like we said the week prior, incredible leaders, incredible ambassadors for Auburn football and Auburn University there. I think that there you got the sense that there is a feeling from each of the players, especially they have something to prove. They feel like they have something that they have to prove individually, but also for this Auburn football team feels like they're being counted out. I thought it was really notable about how Coach Freeze brought up that Jarquez Hunter is not being talked about very much, and they're perfectly fine with that. He is the leading returning their leading returning rusher in the conference. And he's hardly being mentioned. And so I think that's exciting. I think I'm glad that you like to hear those kind of bulletin board
Right.
things teams already aware of. So I love an Auburn team with a chip on their shoulder, and that's usually when you see some magic. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, listen, if you're an opposing fan of Auburn, or a rival, whatever, you do not want Auburn being talked down to, talked less than, because what tends to happen is we surprise you, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
going to the SEC championship game or that's not what I'm saying, folks. You know what? Actually, scratch that from the tape. I do not want to be accused of jinxing this season. The point is, Auburn loves to overachieve when
Very.
they are less thought of. So we'll see how all that shakes out. Let's keep it in football realm. You and I have talked about this previously on episodes that the announcements of the video board being approved, construction was beginning. I even shared out some images from like the day after or the weekend after that had been officially approved, where it looked like the construction had started because there was clearing of certain areas. I've got video evidence of it, but they have officially announced this past week, that the construction is now underway for that video board. The official Auburn Tigers account put that out, and you will see that actually there is going to be some, more fencing up, things like that. So it took a couple weeks, Austin. We may have gotten a little bit ahead of the game ourselves, but the video board is finally happening. It just took them basically most of the summer to get started.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a good big at length last time we brought up this topic. I'm kind of nervous that we've waited this long to get going. As someone who sits in that area, I'm like, how does that mean we're gonna see some more issues throughout the season? I don't know, but they got started. I'm sure they have a plan, and we look forward to seeing where progress goes.
Surely this won't be any worse than Vanderbilt's situation from this past
Can't
season.
be.
Once again, the irony behind the geniuses at Vanderbilt, and I mean that seriously, not being able to figure out how to make that look better for themselves, just
Agreed.
kind of writes the jokes itself. So
Did you want to see it in the video game, by the way?
I really did.
I
But
mean, I thought it would have been.
it would have been top notch, and I think it would have eliminated some of the complaints in other areas that are out there. When we have less to get to this week, we'll come back and let you give you some more thoughts on being in the game,
which will be like next summer. But that's
we're about to be busy, folks. Football is here. Let's talk about basketball. This is obviously not high time for basketball, but what you love to see is when some of our former players get their opportunities at the next level, whether it's the things that we associate, NFL, NBA, things like that, but there are other opportunities out there in the basketball realm. This last week, we had two people get opportunities, well-deserved. You saw him compete already during the basketball tournament this year, and boy, did he show out. And it was an incredible showing for him. So much deserving to get to an invite to a Dominican Republic team, I believe is where they're from. I am
That's
not.
ironic.
I know. I was kind of shocked that you didn't. I could have it wrong. Maybe it wasn't the Dominican Republic, but I'm pretty sure it was. That he got to go and play with their professional team. And I think in one of his first games, if not his first, he put up some pretty good stats as well. So Wendell Green gets the shot that he's been looking for at some type of professional level, starting overseas. Gotta love it for Wendell Green.
Yeah, I mean, you hope that something like that would come after he had two really good games with War Ready. Hopefully, that's an incentive for some of these other guys who may be a little more cautious about joining the team. Just to show, hey, this can be an audition for you. Wendell Green was the talk of the basketball tournament there for a little while. And, Auburn people are always going to share the love. So it was good to see that and good to see he's rewarded for it. I hope he has a great time in Dominican. It has good weather. I can attest for that.
And not to be outdone this week, men's basketball obviously had that great moment with Wendell, but now we're talking about Honesty Scott Grayson from women's basketball. I'm going to try my best to pronounce this. There's going to be a theme coming up here soon in the show.
Oh, yeah.
Of me trying to pronounce names. Amentus BC of Athens, Greece. Honesty Scott Grayson is going to play overseas in Greece. So congratulations to her, the heart and soul of the team the last couple of years under Coach Johnny Harris. We love to see it. We had hoped maybe she would get a look in the WNBA. Didn't necessarily happen. Maybe she did get to go and try out, I believe, for a team or two. But congratulations to her as well for getting an opportunity at the next stage, and maybe is the pathway to something else too.
Yeah, no, you just want an opportunity. And for honesty, I think that she'll make the most of this opportunity and looking forward to seeing what she does of it. Hey, basketball in Greece, that sounds pretty nice.
It does. We're just all over, which again, I'm alluding to
All over.
topics. We're all over. A global sensation is Auburn. Again, alluding to things coming up in the show. I'll do a quick rundown of everybody and just some other news items that happened this week because we just got to get to our big topics. It has been a fun weekend if you know what we're talking about. So, rundown of other things that happened this week that are Auburn related. The Auburn creative teams won an award, War Eagle Creative, alongside War Eagle Productions. By the way, Austin, I'm just getting ready to cry again when they make the homecoming video.
It's coming.
It's almost like it's their goal in life to make me cry every third week or fourth week of college football season when it comes around. So I think if anything, they won the Golden Matrix Award for Best Overall University Production video production. And basically that should be just changed to, can you make your fans cry? Is what I'm saying. Congratulations.
Well, they accomplished it.
They did. So congratulations to them. New soccer assistant coach, Christian Wakefield, is here. So thanks to him for deciding to become a Tiger. We had 13 football players being put on the Shrine Bowl watch list, and men's golf got honored at the White House during a very interesting week at the White House. I will leave it there. So
I have no comment on such matters.
I have no comment on such matters. I have no comment on who wasn't there to greet the team. That's it.
That's something they'll talk about forever right there.
Digging a hole for myself. Get out of it, Kyle. Here we go. So that is your Auburn news and your Auburn potpourri for this week. Now, let us dive into the main meat and potatoes of the show. Let's talk about those things right now. First up, Austin, Big Cat Weekend. When I say the phrase, what comes to your mind?
Rawr. That's literally what came to my mind when you said it.
That's not what I was expecting.
Big Cat Weekend. Big cats on.
Yeah, you need some sleep. You need some sleep.
I do. It is. I don't know how long. If to me, it still feels like a new thing, but I think it's just because I remember each one.
Right.
But it's really not. I mean, it's been happening for, 15 years now, something like that along those lines. And so, I mean, it is the recruiting event. It started before any of these other ones. It is the premier recruiting event for Auburn football, and it's always around right at this end of the summertime. And there's always big names, and this year was no different.
It was arguably, and this isn't my phrasing, but I'm going to say it. This comes from people who have been covering these type of events much longer than me and had the pedigree of working for recruiting sites. Some were suggesting this was the greatest Big Cat ever. And it, as Austin just alluded to, whether it feels young or not, it still is a young event because if I'm not mistaken, it started under Gene Chizik, maintained through Malzahn, kind of didn't happen for another coach, and was brought back for this coach. So maybe that's why, it feels a little bit new because we forgot about it. Apparently,
probably that's very true. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. But may be the biggest Big Cat of all time. I'm going to go ahead and atone for this mistake I made, not here, but I believe it was on a TikTok live. I had a viewer come on and say, this person is reporting we're going to have 5+ commits during this weekend for football. And I said, anything's possible. But boy, was I wrong when I said I highly doubt it. As of this afternoon, and who knows, there may be another one while we're doing this live on a Sunday evening.
There certainly could be.
We wouldn't know about it. But 6 commits, Austin. Is this the greatest Big Cat of all time?
I think so. And there's going to be people say, well, half of them were juniors. Okay, there's still commits and people in the boat. And these are highly ranked guys from both classes. No, it was a massive weekend. And when you factor in all the names that were just there, not even ones that committed, but that were there and invited and took up an opportunity to be at Auburn for this, it matters. You see that play down the road, and guys who are making decisions later on, even in years. So it was a big deal. I do think it was probably the best and biggest that we've had. Certainly in a long time. I think a lot of people remember that very first one, but that might have
Yeah.
some of the first kind of feel to it.
Right.
This one was huge, no doubt. And I saw a lot of what you were saying too, that there were guys who've been covering these and then some, that saying this had a different feel.
Yeah, it did have a different feel. It felt almost like the fulfillment of what everybody's expectation was for Hugh Freeze
Hmm.
about why he was hired. And it's crazy when you have these expectations and someone meets them. It's pretty cool. Like
Feels good.
I didn't know we were capable of 6 commit. The reason I said it wasn't going to happen is because a lot of the times, and this has been the way I've always talked about Big Cat Weekend, you may see 2, maybe 3 commits, which is a great weekend. But what you see after that is the big thing, those relationships that are built, the hype that is built that makes somebody a few days later, a few weeks later say, you know what? Forget this. I can't replicate the feeling I had being with these guys, a brotherhood being built at Auburn. So that's why I kind of said, no, that's probably not possible. Boy, was I wrong. 6 commits. Let's walk through some of these right here. I'll go through the list and maybe we can talk about, if not each one of them, at least some of them. The first 3 are for the class of 2026.
Oh, that,
Hezekiah, were you saying something there?
I was just gonna say that makes me feel so old.
Why does that make you feel old?
2026, Kyle.
How do you think that makes me feel?
Oh, I know. I mean, but
You see,
golly, the
you
year
see,
just keeps getting old. They keep getting younger and younger.
here, this is for the viewers, not the listeners. If you can see the
Yeah,
hairline for this
his
year,
hairline.
this is 2026. This down here was like 2020. I don't know what I'm saying. Apparently, I need sleep as well. Okay,
You need to work yourself up. You're about to have some names you gotta really work on here.
that's not for this segment though. I can do these names. I can do all these.
Oh, well,
Hezekiah Harris,
good
edge
job.
rusher for 2026. Again, these first 3 are from 2026. Shadarius Tootle, one of the best names ever, and I will have so much fun with that if he follows through with his commitment, which was a linebacker and also linebacker for 2026. Jermichael Garrett, which was probably the first, like, I want to call it surprise, but just kind of like the one that started building that
Hmm.
hype up a little bit. So that did it for 2026. But this is when 2025, the current commit class, started getting going. Blake Woodby out of Maryland. Interesting. We don't go to Maryland all that often, but we got one out of there. Antonio Coleman. More on that in a little bit. And then today, if it wasn't a big enough weekend, we secured our punter for the future. So most of you are like rolling your eyes at this. Folks, this is actually truly important because we're about to have to replace Oscar Chapman. John McGuire, a Alabama kid, has decided that he will throw his leg, I was throw hat, but leg into the ring with the Tigers. That is your, at this moment, us recording on a Sunday evening, list for Big Cat. And I bet, say it, Austin,
Oh, we ain't done yet.
we ain't done yet. So, all right, who do you want to talk about first, Austin? Like, what
Well,
comes to
I'd like to talk about the 2026 guys just because they really got started, and I know a lot of people were not as excited as you would be because these guys have so much longer to go,
mind?
or we had heard these guys were close anyway. But for them to be kind of and all 3 big time defensive guys, I think that matters to with DJ Durkin being so new, with a lot of this defensive staff being new. To get these guys believing and in the boat is big and can lay a foundation of something you hope you don't have to worry about as you really decide to press on that 2026 class even more. So all 3 of those guys are big time talents. All 3 of those guys are in state, I believe. Is that right, Kyle?
That is correct. Hezekiah, I believe, is a North Alabama, and the other 2 are South
South
Alabama. I
Alabama.
think I may have them all mixed up there a little bit, but yes,
I
I
think
think
you're
you're
right.
correct. Yeah.
And I think that's a theme that you will continue to see with Big Cat, and the recruiting focus this year especially, is that Hugh Freeze is very, very, very focused on securing the state, and that's not been an easy task in recent years. So
Mhm.
really excited about that. I think out of the top 10, there might be 3 that are not committed to Auburn right now, of those that are in state.
Right.
That's a big deal, and 2 of them are going out of state. So, and one of them might be flipping over to the good guys soon enough. So,
Oh, do
I
we have a
think I
prediction?
think Auburn. Well, we'll see. We'll see. There's Big Cat could lay foundations for future things, But
I think we heard a
with
prediction. I'm going to hold him to it.
with go ahead and setting up that next class to be the same as this one, and securing top in-state guys. That's important.
Yeah, it really is. It cannot be pushed aside the importance of this 2026 getting off to this incredible start. And folks, at the time of their commitments, number one class in the nation. And I am someone that will scream at you guys 1,000 times. Don't focus so much about stars, about rankings, but it is still fun to talk about.
Yes.
Auburn has the number one class in 2026 as of their commitments. That will change, that will ebb, that will flow, but that is huge. We are really excited to have Blake Woodby here because this feels like one that's been coming and a former Ohio State commit. Uh, I mean, you just can't say enough about Coach McGriff and bring what he's able to do recruiting as our cornerbacks coach. So that's a good one there. Jermichael Garrett winning a battle. He is down from Mobile-ish area, or the southern portion of Alabama. So you have to compete with Alabama down there. That's their stronghold, but also LSU, and that's who you beat out in most likelihood for Jermichael Garrett in this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the interesting one.
Yep.
Antonio Coleman, let's take it all the way back, a Alabama commit who flipped at Auburn, who flipped back to Alabama, who flipped back to Auburn this weekend. Love having him here. Super excited. Are we done yet with this kid?
Yeah. I think it's a weird case, and it's always weird when they're flipping back and forth between the rivals in the state, right?
Right.
It's even weirder when it's this many times. I think that there's a lot of people making that out to be a little more, I think, than it is. I think the kid does love the flair of recruiting and the fun of it all. And hey, we have to ask ourselves sometimes, whose fault is that when we've made it this big of a deal?
Amen.
So I'm just going to leave that there. But I also think, I think he committed to Auburn when Jeremy Garrett was still here, who had done an impressive job with recruiting on defensive line. He leaves, and it causes some worry for a second. So I think that him being able to come back shows me he was always still thinking about Auburn, and that he's still very interested.
Yep.
I think this is just my speculation purely that there's probably been some discussions with him and his hopeful and eventual future coaches, like, hey, the game, it's a fun game, but the leash is short. And so I don't know that for certain, but I would think, with 18-year-old kids, you want to shoot them straight. And so I love that he's in the boat. We have a good history of Antonio Coleman's at Auburn. So
We do.
I hope that he is the next great one.
It would be exciting to have him here officially when all things are said and done. And look, it's his life. He's a young man trying to figure things out for himself. I'm sure he's enjoying this recruiting process more than most people, I would say. But it's his life and his decision. So whatever way you want to go about it, you do you, I guess. But
Yeah.
happy to have you part of the class. And I don't want this to be lost either, just to wrap us up. Most people are going to be like, woohoo, you got a punter at the end of the weekend. Folks, Oscar Chapman's about to leave. The man's dominant. He should be he already should be a Ray Guy Award winner. He's not yet. Maybe he will be this season. Literally has probably been one of the only secure things on this team the last couple of years. The wonder from down under. But John is coming in from Alabaster, playing for Thompson High, which is a very good program if you're not aware, in Alabama. And he'll be the heir apparent in a sense. What this is interesting to me, Austin, is you and I were trying to figure out what's going on with Towns Magoo and him coming in while we have Evan McPherson. We now have some context knowing what Evan's been dealing. I'm sorry, not Evan, Alex. I always get the two mixed up. His brother playing for the Bengals, former Florida player. Alex McPherson. We kind of understand some of that now. I had the theory that Towns was going to end up being the punter, but probably not the case at this point. But here's what we can say. Auburn has no issues at kicker. And John is evidence of that as one of the best punters out there in the country right now. Number 2, number 1, depending on where you look at. So across the board, Austin, when you look up and down this, these are all technically defensive players because linebacker,
True.
edge, defensive line, defensive back, punting is a defensive tactic. Am I stretching too far with that description?
No, I think that's fair. And I think that, like I said earlier, I think that's good to see that emphasis. I know Hugh Freeze is offensive coach. We loved it that they get the offensive recruits get the love and the attraction, right? But to have a new staff like this reeling in some defensive recruits is big. And John Allen McGuire is no stranger to Auburn, with his brother formerly being here. So we're excited to have him. It doesn't hurt that he's got two high school teammates who also happen to be announcing their commitments this week. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see if that plays a factor tomorrow and Saturday.
You might say we ain't done yet.
You just might.
Just might. It's the Olympics, Austin. I mean, isn't it awesome just to be
boom, 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 boom.
What's with these noises this week, man?
That was my high school ringtone for like,
was it really
6 months? Oh, I loved it. I loved the NBC Olympics theme song.
I had no clue that you were such a hardcore fan of Olympics musical numbers.
It was awesome.
Let's put that in your bio on your resume.
Please do.
Intense fan of all things Olympics, including the sounds of it. All right. Well, clearly I'm talking to the right person because we want to talk about Auburn in the Olympics. Clearly, folks, we're talking about this in the moment where it's already taking place. Some events have already happened. Keep that in mind in some of our discussions here, but we thought it would be an important topic today for us to cover who's in it, what you can expect, and maybe predictions on who might win some medals. I don't know. Austin had predictions earlier in the show, so maybe he's got some here. We'll see. But how do you like overall when it comes to Auburn in the Olympics? We've got a pretty good history, don't you think? Charles Barkley, lots of other moments. SUNY.
Yeah, of course. I was explaining to my wife. My wife is a huge Olympics fan, but also a big gymnastics fan. I was explaining to her kind of last night as we were getting to watch some of the first day stuff. We found some of the coverage. And just like back when I was a kid, I remember so vividly watching Auburn being showcased during the swimming because it was just the heyday of Auburn swimming. And they weren't all for Team USA, but they had so many kids that were going back and competing for their own host countries. And Auburn would be talked about a lot on the coverage because it was so many of them. And so I remember that so vividly and thinking that was a cool part that Auburn was on showcase for the world. We haven't had that as much swimming prowess as lately. I think SUNY's helped a lot with Auburn in the Olympics, but we've got some this year.
Yes, we do. And let me just go ahead and atone for the sin I just committed. I mentioned SUNY, obviously. Charles, obviously. You let me say those names in like Auburn's greatness in the Olympics without saying Rowdy Gaines.
Okay. I was waiting to bring Rowdy up.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about him some more in a second, but I just want to atone for that. What I just committed. That was a foul.
We forgive you.
I hope so. That's just put it on the list of fouls in this show that I've committed. It's about to be a few more here when I tried to pronounce some names because we want to talk about our current and former athletes that are competing with Auburn ties, current and former Auburn Tigers that are in the Olympics. And let me just put this out there, folks. If you are this athlete, a family member or a friend, I have a very strong Southern accent and I don't talk well, which is weird because I have a podcast.
You don't talk good?
I don't talk good. So I'm going to do my best. And some of them I may just like not skip over the one part of their name, just their last names. I think I can pull that off at least. So,
I cannot wait for this.
So please, there's no disrespect meant here, but just the comedy of me trying to enunciate and talk. All right. So 11 current and former Auburn Tigers that are competing July 26th through August 11th across so many sports. I got stats out the wazoo for you in this, Austin. So get ready. Let's talk about these individuals first. Right at the top, Let's just go ahead and talk about it. Sanisa Lee, USA, competing for us in gymnastics. Right after that, we have
Oh boy.
Kenyon Sola Ajayi of Nigeria, which I've got to really, if we have time, I'm going to talk about that. I got a unique, not me personally, but
Okay.
in-law ties to Nigeria,
Interesting.
which is, so I love seeing that up there.
Oh man.
Sharamba from Zimbabwe. I'm going to leave that there. Favor Ashe from Nigeria. Marcelo.
What sports are these?
I'm sorry. I should have been saying that the entire time. I was so
That's okay.
I was so trying to not disrespect these people in their
I know
name.
you are.
All right, let me go back. Ajay is in track and field. Favor Ashe is in track and field. Sharamba is track and field as well.
Okay.
Marcelo Kieran Greeny.
That sounds right. Sure.
For swimming and diving. Azim Fahimi, Fahmy, I believe is how that's pronounced.
Oh,
That's
okay.
track and field. Emily Halifax, swimming and diving. Tim Putz, who's been around for a while in tennis. Valerie Tarazi, Palestine, and is a swimming and diving competition. Donald Thomas of the Bahamas, track and field, and JT Thor of South Sudan, men's basketball. So JT, here's the crazy thing. Auburn put out their list and did it before JT and South Sudan had made it. So he got in there like kind of last minute before they made the big announcement of how they made it in there. I mean, Austin, this is a pretty big list. Like it's pretty
very diverse too. Lots
like,
of countries, lots of sports.
It's like
I'm impressed.
It's like we came prepared to talk about that or something like that. I mean,
It's the place to do it right here.
Before I dive into some of that, what sticks out to you the most from that list besides Sunni being there?
Sure.
That I got to take that one away from you. What sticks out to you? Any name, any notion, any story?
I mean, I think some of it is what I just alluded to, that there's so many names on there or countries on there that I didn't expect.
Right.
With I think you said Nigeria, Brazil, Palestine, South Sudan,
Malaysia.
Like these are, it's not even one corner of the world that we're looking at. These are all over. And I recently went Emily and I on one of our walks recently. We're in the student center and they took away all the flags. In the student center.
They did.
They have taken away. Now there's another area of the student center now where they've kind of prettied it up, and there's like a circle of all the flags, but you know what I mean. And they're not hanging, cool. And that's where the tour guides will always say, "This is how many countries have come to Auburn." Da, 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 da.
That was a cool thing.
Thank you. It kind of hurt my little Auburn heart, but the Olympics is kind of one of those times of the year that kind of comes to life. Like there were real people that came to Auburn, whether it be for a year, for 6 years or whatever, that were from all these places around the world. And now they're back competing for those teams, but we can still pull for them in an Auburn way. So it's pretty cool to hear and put names with those people, and hope I'm going to do my best to remember them and be able to say, hey, Kyle butchered that name on TV when I see them.
We were going to move past it. She had to bring it back up. Again, no disrespect to the athletes, their families. This is simply my inabilities as a podcaster, which is ironic, to pronounce things and talk for a living. Okay, real quick. I want to go through some stats with you, but let me give you the list of countries again that are represented. The United States, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Brazil, Malaysia, France, Germany, Palestine, Bahamas, South Sudan. How many is that?
10 out of our 11. That's pretty good.
10 out of our 11. There's only one repeat. That is Nigeria. 2 from Nigeria. That's pretty cool. Just a quick personal story. My wife's family has a history with their grandparents were missionaries over in Nigeria and are very well loved by those that they worked with over there.
Cool.
We even called her late grandfather Baba, because that's what they called him, which is a term, as I understand it, for father or revered father.
How about that?
I know. So anytime I see Nigeria pop up, I love seeing that just because of my not personal, but married in personal connection to that. So I obviously pay attention, and I favor Ashe, by the way. If you're not paying attention to him for Auburn track and field, you should be. So please do that. Okay, so there's your countries. Other stats. We have 4 veterans that are competing for the Olympics, meaning they've been there before. Obviously, Lee, Putz, Thomas, several. And again, I'm not going to try to butcher her last name again. I'm sorry. It's the hardest one for me. 6 new athletes out that have been there. If I've got my math right, I may be off by one there. 5 current Auburn athletes and 6 former Auburn athletes. We already talked about the 10 countries, 1 United States, but 1 repeat in Nigeria. If you look at the way those countries break down, Auburn is representing at the Olympics across 5 different continents. 2 countries in North America, or 2 individuals. 1 individual is South America, 2 from Europe, 4 from Africa, and 2 from Asia. That, my friend, is pretty incredible. I'm not done yet. I love
Oh,
looking
here
at
he
this and
goes.
breaking this down. These are unofficial, some of them are official regions, like when you take geography class. But I just want to put this in perspective for people. You have these regions represented in the makeup of all of this: Midwest United States, the East Coast of Africa, the Southern Africa, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, mainland Europe, Caribbean islands, Saharan Africa, and the tropical South American region. I mean,
It's everywhere.
we are a global phenomenon, folks. This is the Auburn family. That's just incredible. Current, former, however, they're all part of the Auburn family. And this, to me, just, if that wasn't enough for you, here's the sports too that we represent: track and field, swimming and diving, tennis, basketball, gymnastics. We are global. We are widely relevant in so many different things. Folks, if this doesn't show you the Auburn experience, I don't know what
I
will.
think I see your little Auburn heart growing.
It grew
I
three
mean, it's just beating out your chest right now.
It grew 3 sizes today, man. And I'm not, listen, there's so much strife in the world and stuff like that, but this is one of those moments where you're just like, this is incredible. You know,
Oh,
like just the way Auburn is showing out on the grand stage. And hopefully we'll be talking about some of these people winning some medals. So really quickly, want to give some respect to Rowdy Gaines in a way he
yes.
represents us every year. He is obviously one of your main commentators again for swimming and diving. He's the guy yelling in the background,
Screaming.
screaming. It is not an Olympics for anybody, but for Auburn people when Rowdy Gaines, without Rowdy Gaines there. So it's fun to hear him every year, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. It was literally last night. Like I said, we were trying to find coverage, and our TV, you couldn't see the previews, but you could hear it. And I was like, oh, I recognize that voice. There's only one man who can get excited about the 100-meter fly qualifier
To that level.
it's probably like 6 a.m. there. And I just, I think my dad is really one who taught me about Rowdy when we would watch the Olympics when I was a kid. And to know that he was the Auburn guy who had done it and done it well, but came back and is now the voice of U.S. swimming is cool to know he's one of ours. So I think it's awesome. I think it was either 2020. I don't remember what season it was, but Rowdy got an award on the field at a football game, and me and my mother-in-law and Emily and a best friend of mine from college saw him at Tumors after the game. And I'm not someone who's like forward enough to be like, hey, can I get a picture with you? But
Right.
my friend who was very into it and my mother-in-law both were like, we got to get one. So we did. And now every time I have it, I'm like, I have a picture with Rowdy Gaines.
Right.
So it's cool. And Rowdy is a staple of the Summer Olympics. And we're glad he bleeds orange and blue.
We are glad of that. Obviously, we're all paying attention to Suni Lee. Will she be able to make her comeback in a sense after dealing with a kidney issue that kept her from finishing her final year at Auburn? A really cool story is JT Thor. Again, they were a late, I think, entry into the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, and him being very prominent on that team, giving LeBron James a run for his money is a pretty cool story. In that having his country represented, but also him being in there for us as another representative.
Got a big win today.
He did get a big win today. So we're talking about this on the Sunday evening. So keep this in mind. Some of this may be moot points in terms of like predictions or anything we said about time frames and stuff like that when you're hearing or watching this. Finally, I just want to bring this to people's attention as a reminder. Some of these men's track and field athletes that we're talking about nearly won you a national championship this year, and they're competing on the big stage, whether that's Favor Shea, Azim Fahmy. These guys nearly won you a national championship. So do not. What are you laughing at?
Laughing at you tried to go to the names again.
Shh, I'm trying to make up.
You did it to yourself.
I can never do it justice. Why do I have a podcast? Why do I have a podcast? But all that being said, go watch these guys in track and field.
Definitely.
They just nearly gave you another national championship this year. So whether you are following SUNY, JT, track and field, swimming and diving, or one of our mainstays, Tim Putz, in tennis, or you're just there to hear Rowdy Gaines yell, you have a million reasons to follow, to watch, and get excited about the Olympics this year, if for nothing else, for your Auburn family. That's going to do it for episode 87 in the books. Quite the plethora and wide variety of things we covered in this show, football to the Olympics and everything in between. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up with me, do so on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Where can I keep up with you?
Yeah, at Austin G. Scott on X, on Instagram. Hit me up.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the Olympics. Have fun with all of this excitement we had on Big Cat Weekend. And thank you for tuning in. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.